Welcome to the CBA's Good Science Resource. As a part of our mission, we strive to collect and share important information and create safe consumer products. This is the continuation of our PFAS educational series. CBA Managing Director Fran Groesbeck and President of the FEC Tobias Gerfin talk about PFAS history, use, and concerns.
How long has the polymers been around? When were they first introduced?
The PTFE was introduced in 1938. At that time, it was mainly DuPont, and the product name was Teflon. So a lot of people still say PTFE is Teflon because that was the first and most famous application to that, or the brand for it. And today, it's really unbelievable. You can talk to more or less anybody in the industry, in any industry. And you ask them about PTFE, and you will find that they use this type of fluoropolymer or a similar one. And it's really independent, whether it is renewable energy, whether it is information technology or telecommunication technology like 5G. Wherever you go, you will stumble over it. If you ask car manufacturers today and you tell them, we will take the fluoropolymers away from you, they will tell you that the path to lower carbon footprint in transportation and cars is not possible without it today. Whether it's electrical cars or gasoline cars, it doesn't matter.
And to Tobias's point, I really want to stress what he just said to the listener out there. When you say communications, we're talking about your cell phones and your laptops. Everyday tools we're now using to use business. If we eliminate PFAS as a group, those products can't be made anymore. They won't be available. 5G networks will shut down. It's just to look at this group in a blanket approach is just not good science. We really have to open our minds and look at the different chemicals. What do they do? What are the EPA calls it a risk profile. That's what they're looking for right now. Is there a risk profile? And then if there is, what does that mean and what should we do? But if there isn't a risk profile, if it does not come up as a risk chemical or risk group, then that goes over here. And that's what that's really the best approach. And it's what, if you give time and science the time to do its job, that's what will come out. And we'll know the ones that have the risk profile and then be able to attack it and say, okay, what do we have to do to get rid of those things?
And in companies, and I think in society as well, the ban of something should be the last step. First, you should analyze the problem. And then you should say, okay, there is a problem, let's reduce the impact. And only if there is no way to get somehow control of it, you have to ban it. The tendency of our societies, and not only with respect now to PFAS, but to other things, to start immediately banning something is dangerous because a lot of good applications have to disappear just because maybe one or two are not on the level we want it to be.
So you're telling me that this technology, the chemistry had come about in the 1930s. Then with the application of it, it was like a technology boom because of this discovery. And now the application of it is in so many things that we use every day. And because of the use of it over time, we are finding out through science how it affects us and the environment. And so now we're in the phase of really studying and walking a high path of studying the long-term effects and developing new products that are good for us and the environment.
Well, it is known since many years that the fluorochemicals have a negative impact. I mean, if somebody says he didn't know that, he was looking away. So has been known since many years. And we have to balance the because we need what Fran described. We need the fluorochemicals produce the fluoropolymers. We have to balance that, and we have to balance the risk. The fluoropolymers have such unique properties with extreme applications that don't exist otherwise. Let's take hygiene as one example. If you produce food and you are in a big container, many of them are coated with PTFE in the inside, because thereby they can really make sure that it's a hygienic production. It's almost impossible to do it otherwise. Now you can say we stop with that, but then we have the risk of less hygiene food. And who wants to have that? And so it is all a question of balance. And I think this also goes in the direction of the good science. If science tells us we have to get out of PFAS, then no industry should say no, if the science tells us that. Today, in 2022, science doesn't tell us that. Science tells us you have to be careful, and you have to make sure that the fluorochemicals are not getting out into the environment. That is what science is telling us.
Also, to clarify on the point of the fluorochemicals being used with fluoropolymers, the amount used is small. Plus, and we'll talk about this when we get into the video explaining PFAS connected to cookware and bakeware, but it's a very minimal amount. And there's something that cookware goes through in the application process that is very different than other products, which is a heat cure application. Again, we'll get into that later. But that distinction is very critical for this topic. And in the end, the final product and the heat is actually the reason why we really want to bring attention to this. And just to explain, give you a little visual, this may only work for the Americas, but let's see if it works. If you were to take baby powder, talcum powder, and put it on top of water, it'll sit there. It doesn't want to mix. If you were to take a drop of Dawn dishwashing liquid and drop it in, you'll watch the baby powder fall. The baby powder is the fluoropolymer, or the PTFE, or the Teflon with a little t, as Tobias said, it's the nickname with a little t. That single drop of Dawn is the drop of the fluorochemical, the fluoropolymer dispersion, helping the powder disperse in the water. It's a very small amount, and then that liquid goes on the product and it goes through a heat cure. There's so much technology. There's so much to every step of this, where we're doing this very high level look down. Tobias touched on food packaging. There's medical industry, there's military, there's so many things. And you need to get into not just the science of the chemicals and these risk profiles that we're identifying, then you're going to have to get into how they're used, why they're used. There's so many steps that have to be taken to do this right.
And then coming back on the chemical safety, maybe also, we touched a little bit on this one, but we have three questions. One, whether a substance is toxic. The second is whether it is mobile, which means, do you get in contact with it? Because if it's fixed somewhere, it can sit there forever. You're not getting in contact, so there is no risk for you. But if you have a water-soluble molecule that gets in contact with you, obviously, then you're in risk. And the last one is the persistence. So how long will the substance continue? And for the PFAS, the last one is the key element. Because they are so inert, they don't react, which means they last for a very long time. That's also the reason why they are called forever chemicals. Nature has no normal system to get rid of them. Therefore, we as mankind, we have to make very sure that we are treating that carefully. But overall, all three are important, whether something is safe. And now coming back to the fluoropolymers, if it's not toxic, it's not mobile, then the safety is really not a major concern, because the people don't get in touch with it. And even if they do, as Fran pointed out, it just goes through the body and it's gone.
And the FDA has done studies on that and released studies. You can actually find it on their website, confirming that that's not just, an opinion, that's fact. And the other part is the three elements that Tobias talked on is what the risk profiles are going to be founded on: the toxicity, mobility, and persistence. And as you mentioned, PTFE, which is what we're using in our industry, is not toxic nor mobile. And so it will do one, there'll be risk profiles identified, but then Tobias's point, we also still have to consider heavily, what about the environmental impact and what do we do there?
Thanks for watching. For more resources about the cookware and bakeware industry and membership information, visit our website at cookwareandbakeware.org.